situation at Stellantis is, I think the technical term, a mess. You know, we have seen a real collapse of sales. Their global earnings, which are heavily dependent on North America, were down about 48% for the first half.
Chrysler and Stellantis are in serious trouble. These two automotive giants are spiraling into a crisis that might just be their toughest challenge yet. Everyone with even a passing interest in cars can't help but notice the turbulence surrounding them. Now, why is this headline news? It's not just because these companies have iconic names in the automotive world. It's about the ripple effects. What exactly is going on, and why should you care? Stellantis under pressure. This situation could impact jobs, global markets, and even the types of cars we'll see dominating the roads. First off, let's talk about Chrysler, a name that's been around forever, but it is now navigating through a storm of financial woes and market challenges. The challenges they face aren't just a minor blip on the radar, they're more like a series of flashing red warning lights. Think shrinking sales, strategic missteps, and the relentless march of electric vehicles changing what the game of car making looks like today. And just when you thought it couldn't get more intense, Stellantis steps in. Stellantis, a colossus born from the merger of Fiat Chrysler and PSA Group, is supposed to be this powerhouse of a company. Merging dreams don't always match reality, and the company's grand vision seems to be hitting speed bumps faster than anyone predicted. Let's talk about what's happening with Stellantis finances. They're really facing some tough times in an already bumpy automotive industry. Financial crisis. Now let's dive into the nitty-gritty of Stellantis' financial conundrum. The crystal ball for 2024 has turned gloomy, with the company issuing a rather somber profit warning. They've reined in their expectations, pegging the anticipated operating income margin to hover between a tight 5.5% and 7%, a far cry from the once optimistic double-digit dreams. This adjustment isn't just pulled from thin air, it's a reaction to the way the global automotive sector is slumping, weighed down by the fierce entry of Chinese manufacturers and an unsustainable glut in vehicle inventories. Stellantis is bracing for cash flow in the negative, possibly ranging from $5.5 billion to a whopping $11.17 billion for the year. It's a storm signal for liquidity troubles that cannot be ignored. To add salt to the wound, they've also witnessed their net profits nosedive by a startling 48% during the first half of 2024 compared to the previous year. And if you zoom in on US sales figures, there's been a discouraging drop of nearly 16% despite the fact that the industry as a whole has seen an uptick in new vehicle sales. It's a perplexing paradox, isn't it? Decline sales. The Stellantis are dealing with significant dents in their market performance and sales figures. It's an intricate tale of numbers and sentiments, laced with economic factors dramatically reshaping buyer behavior. Start with Jeep, a stalwart player among off-road enthusiasts. But hold on, its sales journey tells a different story. Back in 2018, Jeep revved to an impressive peak with about 973,200 vehicles flying off lots. Fast forward to 2023, the wheels have slowed significantly, a jarring drop to 642,924 units. That marks a jaw-dropping 44% skid from its zenith, making it the brand's lowest point in over a decade. Even hitting rockier terrain, the second quarter of 2024 saw Jeep's US sales plummet an additional 19% compared to the previous year. Stellantis didn't dodge the arrow either. It saw an overall 21% drop in the US during this time. Let's talk trends. Bear in mind, these aren't overnight issues. The descent has been steady and unnerving. Jeep's sales have dwindled for 5 consecutive years. A consistent decline revealing the cracks in their market strategy and execution. In 2022, sales slips continued to around 684,600 units, with the first half of the next year only painting a bleaker picture. A 6% year-over-year decrease, suggestive of more than just temporal turbulence but deep-rooted concerns. Now, throw a glance at the competition. From any vantage point, Jeep seems to be slipping past rearview mirrors while others accelerate. General Motors, for instance, noted slight upticks in the same time frame, with a minor yet telling 0.6% gain in US sales. As Jeep stumbles, rivals appeared to gain traction, a stark reminder of underperformance. Stellantis' pricing approach isn't winning accolades either. It's being scrutinized through squinted eyes. Critics argue it falls short of the positional prowess shown by Ford or Toyota, especially when interwoven with the fraying threads of inflation and squeezed consumer spending powers. Consumer sentiment. Look closer at the product mix. While some favorites like the Grand Cherokee hold ground, others, Cherokee and Renegade, see substantial declines, upwards of 90% for the Cherokee since its peak. The dropping of beloved models further complicates customer loyalty, rendering a seemingly alienating effect on devoted patrons. As we've all felt, economic pressures weigh heavily. The specters of inflation hover, trimming consumers' budgets tighter, sparking withdrawals or rethinks of vehicle purchases. What follows is predictably logical. Price-sensitive buyers lean towards those brands offering value or alluring incentives. Crossing into financing territory, higher interest rates play a deterrent. Buyers hesitate at car lot gates unless driven by perceived value, a much-needed anchor amidst the pricey waters of current times. And what's that on the horizon? The envisioned electrification shift. Consumers increasingly driven by EVs or hybrids for more than just environmental badges, but pragmatic fuel savings. Stellantis, while targeting this electrifying pivot, finds itself in a scrum, competing hard against brands that have already carved prowess and a lead in the electrified landscape. How on earth could a giant company like this stumble and fall? It's a question that might leave you scratching your head, wondering what went so terribly wrong. Well, let me break it down to you. Leadership instability. Ever wonder how the colossal Stellantis, a giant in the automotive world born out of the 2021 merger between Fiat Chrysler Automobiles and PSA Group, is currently standing? Well, the scenario's not all sunshine, particularly when we look at the teetering leadership front, especially within their Jeep brand and North American operations. What's brewing is a storm of leadership instability that's as surprising as a plot twist in a thriller. This scenario is marked by a carousel of executive exits and arrivals, which inevitably cast shadows over the company's strategic choices and brand vibe. Let's chat about executive turnover. It's like watching a revolving door in high-speed mode. Stellantis has been a hub of change, with high-ranking departures and new faces stepping into critical roles for iconic brands such as Jeep, Dodge, and Ram. Flick back to June 2024, and you'll see the gearbox of Stellantis shifting gears with a slew of notable leadership announcements. Meet the new faces: Antonio Filosa for Jeep, Matt McAleer at Dodge, and Chris Fuel holding the reins at Ram. These shuffles come hot on the heels of Timothy Kuniskis' retirement, a man who bore CEO hats for both Ram and Dodge. Earlier in the year, Carlos Zarlenga joined the team as the North American COO, and let's face it, they could use a fresh outlook to combat slipping market shares. Fast forward to September 2024, and Stellantis is flipping through resumes on the hunt for a new CEO to take the baton from Carlos Tavares, whose tenure is set to conclude in 2026. The plot thickens. Commencing the search even before Tavares has cleared his desk has got folks raising eyebrows and pondering the underlying troubles. What gives? Some whisper about deeper organizational tensions amidst lackluster financial benchmarks and growing dealer grumblings. Tavares is, meanwhile, weathering storms of criticism from both dealers and labor unions, with the latter grumbling over dwindling profits and ballooning inventory levels haunting the North American sector. Stellantis has truly become a fascinating case study in leadership transitions. The company has to weather these ongoing changes while ensuring the continuity and stability that its operations desperately need, because this situation is truly affecting the strategy. Failed strategies. Stellantis, that formidable automobile colossus, is living proof that leadership instability doesn't just stay in the boardroom, it spills out, marking every aspect of the company's roadmap with uncertainty. Let's talk about strategies that didn't quite hit the mark. Stellantis made a bold move to push certain brands up market, aiming to touch the luxury segment's zenith. But here's the thing, what looks good on paper doesn't always translate to showroom success. This upscale ambition hasn't struck a chord with consumers, resulting in a backlog that would make anyone in inventory management sweat bullets. Take Dodge, for example. Their dealerships are seeing an average of 149 days of inventory piling up. Now, that's almost twice the industry norm. This staggering statistic screams out the gap between what Stellantis thought consumers wanted and what actually rolls off the lot. When leaders frequently come and go, what happens to the warm and fuzzy trust that consumers have draped around familiar car brands for years? It's like trying to dance to a song that keeps changing its beat. confusing, and kind of frustrating. Each leadership change brings along a new tune of ideas and directions, blurring the once clear lines of brand identity. This dissonance is particularly harsh for stalwarts like Jeep and Dodge. They're brands that have thrived on unwavering loyalty and a sincere connection with their customers. Wandering off course with shifting strategies might just leave loyal fans scratching their heads, wondering what song Stellantis is playing now. Now, let's dive into the character crisis facing these proud automobiles. Branding is like storytelling. It's about conveying who you are and standing out in a bustling market. However, when leadership can't settle on a common narrative, brand identity inevitably suffers a splintering effect. Different captains steering Stellantis' ship might chart diverse courses, each taking a unique stab at defining what these brands should mean to the world. This lack of unified vision blurs the story, making it challenging for customers to connect with a consistent identity they can believe in. There's an inherent risk of diluting the brand's message, leading to a depreciation in brand equity over time. Inventory challenges. Stellantis is right in the thick of the inventory issue, wrestling with overwhelming inventory challenges and incentive headaches that are shaking up how they operate and relate to dealers. In an automotive market that's dramatically shifting gears, these problems are more than just a bump in the road. They're becoming undeniable hurdles impacting the company's wallet and standing. Let's kick things off by diving into the numbers. By the time March 31, 2024 rolled around, Stellantis found itself with a bumper crop of 31 2024 new vehicles just gathering dust in their inventory, an eye-popping figure compared to what's typical elsewhere in the industry. To put it in perspective, think about this. The average holding of new vehicles in the US was creeping up as well, from 74 days supply to 76 days by May 2024, showing a market-wide surplus that's hard to ignore. Now, let's chat about how Stellantis stacks up against the competition. If you zoom in on brands like Jeep and Ram under the Stellantis banner, you'll see they're especially bogged down, sitting at inventory levels at least double what the industry normally sees. Jeep, for example, saw its backlog rise by 21%, and Ram wasn't far behind, with a 14% increase reported over a certain period. Meanwhile, some brands like Toyota are playing it smart, keeping inventory to a tight average of just 30 days supply. Pressure on pricing. But what's really happening with all these vehicles taking up space for way too long? The repercussions are quite sticky. Let's break them down. High stacks of unsold inventory have got dealers' finances in a bind. The capital gets all tied up, leading to operating costs skyrocketing. Holding on to cars that aren't selling means dealers face the double whammy of these hiked up costs eroding their profit margins. Plus, having to divert funds to offset these expenses often means cutting back on what keeps customers happy. Marketing blitzes and top-notch service initiatives fall by the wayside just when they're needed most. Then there's the crush on pricing that everyone involved feels. An overstuffed inventory often pushes dealerships into offering steeper discounts and bonuses just to get things moving. It's no way to do business if you're trying to maintain stable profit margins. These price cuts slink deeper into a downward spiral of undercutting, risking the fundamental value that brands like those under Stellantis have worked tirelessly to build. Picture it, a race to the bottom in pricing that could transform beautiful cars into mere commodities. On the operational front, too many unsold cars create a logistical nightmare. Picture dealership lots overflowing, struggling to make space, and keeping things organized. It's the kind of clutter that's anything but inviting to potential buyers stopping by. You walk in and you see a mess. Who wants to wade through chaos to find their next car? Incentive spending. Stellantis, a major player in the automotive ring, is finding itself in the thick of this issue with its sluggish incentive programs. The auto giant is hearing it from critics who say they're trailing behind rivals when it comes to rolling out juicy deals and incentives. You know the drill. When inventory piles up, many automakers turn to sweeten the pot with buyers. Yet Stellantis has been oddly slow on the uptake, especially when names like Ford and General Motors have been quick to swipe buyers with attractive deals. Let's explore how this trend is unfolding. Stellantis, waking up to the reality of gigantic stockpiles and declining sales figures, has finally declared a move to crank up incentives on both 2024 models and those slightly longer in the tooth. But here's the catch. This move comes after a spell of playing it cool, with no real urgency in their incentive strategy compared to the competition. Some would say they've missed the boat, causing those inventories to tower higher and sales figures to chill. Think about it. Without strong incentives pulling at buyers, no wonder Stellantis brands like Dodge are stuck with old inventory like it's going out of fashion. A head scratcher, right? Consider this. Dodge is sitting on a whopping 151 days supply of vehicles. That's like deciding to wear winter boots in summer. No foot traffic means no movement. Plain and simple. Let's switch gears and talk about the folks feeling the heat. Dealers. They're bearing the brunt of Stellantis' leisurely approach to incentives, and it's not pretty. With inventory levels off the charts and the manufacturer's arm a little light on the incentives lever, dealer profitability is sinking. It's a classic case of too many cars and not enough buyers, pushing dealers to fling hefty discounts out the door just to clear some space for the latest models rolling in. Strained relationship. There's a growing rift between the automaker and its dealers, and it's not just a minor hiccup, it's a full-blown standoff that's threatening to shake up the industry's equilibrium. At the heart of this tension are lackluster incentive programs that have dealers practically jumping up and down in frustration. These auto retailers feel Stellantis hasn't stepped up to the plate to offer the right kind of support to drive sales, especially when facing sky-high inventory levels. Take Sean Hogan, the vice president of Sierra Auto Group. He's been candid about the issue, mentioning how Stellantis hasn't rolled out a clear plan to bump up sales or offer substantial backing. It's like the company decided to sit back during a high-stakes game while its dealers are left scrambling. And as if the sting wasn't sharp enough already, Stellantis has fallen behind competitors like Ford and General Motors in the incentives arena. The lack of aggression in their incentive programs has made dealers feel left out in the cold, deprived of the solid backing they see other manufacturers providing. They're stuck watching rivals speed ahead with enticing offers while they attempt to make the most out of less than stellar support. But this whole situation isn't just about the here and now. It's the future that's really at risk. The friction that's been mounting between Stellantis and its dealers might be eroding some pretty crucial long-term partnerships. Trust, a key element in any relationship, seems to be slipping through the cracks. Dealers feel like Stellantis has left them in the lurch at a time when they need all the help they can get. This growing disillusionment could have a domino effect on dealer loyalty, setting off alarms about long-lasting repercussions. Even more concerning, there's the looming potential for outright revolt. Dealers have reached a boiling point. Some have openly pointed fingers at CEO Carlos Tavares, accusing him of chasing short-term profits and sidelining the need for sustained stability. It's an open call demanding more collaboration, and one that has resonated with the Stellantis National Dealer Council. They're pushing hard for deeper engagement and a fix to these urgent issues. But if things don't change, if tensions keep bubbling over without any resolution in sight, the whole Stellantis brand might find itself in hot water. The risk of reputational damage is real, and customers who empathize with dealers' woes may start to view Stellantis in a negative light. This shift in consumer perception could dent sales figures and chip away at market share as consumer trust takes a nosedive. So here's the million-dollar question. Will Stellantis rally to fortify its dealer relationships, or will this discord continue to simmer? This juggernaut, feeling the burn from fierce market competition, has rolled out a game plan targeting these bloated inventories to breathe fresh life into its brand. Well, let me tell you about it. Strategic response. Imagine scoring a hot deal on a shiny new set of wheels. Sounds good, right? As 2024 barrels through its final quarter, Stellantis is poised to deliver just that. With an aim to tackle the gridlock of surplus cars, the automaker's rolling out a tempting array of pricing schemes and incentives designed to lure buyers like moths to a garage lamp. This strategic kickoff is rooted in whittling dealer inventories down to no more than 330,000 units before we ring in 2025, beating their earlier schedule by a mile. Why the rush, you ask? It's about re-establishing trust. Consumers need to believe once again in the bold dreams these brands weave. Laser focus on what people love. That's the name of their game. Stellantis is putting the spotlight on models that ride high in demand, shelving models that prefer to chill unnoticed. Bonus, when the lots aren't a maelstrom, those sparkling gems of cars, they shine so much brighter. Communication is crucial. Stellantis is in it to win it, and this means amping up dealer dialogues. The blueprint going forward doesn't just land on sales. By arming dealerships with robust inventory forecasting tools and sharing savvy sales strategies, they empower these pivotal players on worthy lanes of effectiveness. Long-term strategy. Let's talk about Stellantis and its turbocharged plans to electrify it in the long run. Picture this, a brand that's not just dipping its toes into the EV challenges, but cannonballing in with a splash of ambitious goals and cool new rides. Stellantis isn't messing around with tiny tweaks. They're diving deep, aiming to launch a whopping 25 new electric vehicle models by 2025. Out of these, 18 are pure battery electric vehicles. Why? Because there's a seismic shift happening, with drivers steadily veering towards green and sustainable rides. They want cars that whisper to cities' ears that they care about tomorrow, today. This massive pivot aligns with a global automotive evolution that isn't just a trend, it's a transformation. But ambition isn't just about numbers, it's about new beginnings too. Stellantis is already off the starting blocks. 4 fresh models rolled out in early 2024 alone, like shiny emissaries heralding their bold move toward enhancing brand appeal. These new entries aren't just cars, they're strategic moves in Stellantis' chess game to woo environmentally conscious consumers and invigorate their image. And then there's the tech investment. Imagine millions poured into research and development to brew up cutting-edge battery tech and beef up charging stations. This is Stellantis cracking open the market with a clear signal. It's not just playing catch-up, it's setting pace. The road to competitive advantage means embracing innovation sincerely, fighting for dominance against titanic titans like Tesla and plucky newcomers hopping onto EV trends like grasshoppers on speed. The landscape today is a battlefield of innovation, with potential rivals emerging from unexpected shadowy corners. Tesla's made a loud statement, and Chinese manufacturers are charging in fast, guns blazing, to shine in a bustling car circus of the future. Stellantis has to play the dual role of showman and strategist, stunning consumers with dazzling innovations while anchoring prices that keep wallets just as thrilled. Now, toss brand perception into this merry brew. You see, every brand clings onto its public persona like a badge or a scar etched deep. Stellantis needs to rise above whispers of skepticism surrounding past reliability hiccups. By enhancing the driving experience from wheel touch to service bay, genuine trust can be rebuilt among those who once scanned away from Stellantis badges. A resurrected reputation for trustworthy craftsmanship can refuel consumer faith, translating into brand loyalty strong enough to withstand time's test. We want to hear from you. What are your thoughts on the future of Chrysler and Stellantis? Tell us in the comment below.